All right, here we are. 1 minute pre-show. We had a 16-minute pre-show the other night without you.
Yeah.
Good pre-show. Yeah.
How's it work?
Finally giving CJ a chance to shine on the longer pre-show. Disappointing today as we're doing this at 1 p.m. on a Sunday. Very sorry what we're about to do to the NFL ratings, NFL ratings now going to go into the toilet now that the Ricky is live during their games, during the 1 p.m. games.
That's right. They considered moving it back.
The entire thing. Just push everything back and out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Eagles don't play till 4. So Eagles Chargers. I feel like the Eagles have never played the Chargers. I can't recall an Eagles Chargers game ever.
I believe Matt Ware blocked a field goal and returned it for a touchdown maybe 10 to 12 years ago.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't remember it at all. Well, here we go. Well, and welcome to those who are watching live. The Eagles don't play till 4 o'clock, so you can watch live. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS. Plenty of time to bet on that Birds game. And brought to you by By Nature Pet Foods, home of the Soft Shit Award. Get 20% off your first By Nature order at Chewy and Amazon with promo code 20RTRS. LL Pavorsky Jewelers, where Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners go and get engaged, and Kinetic Skateboarding. Get free tunes for the life of your new snowboard when you purchase a brand new snowboard from Kinetic. On the show today, the Sixers beat the Bulls and now have won 6 straight. They have the best offense in the league. Still, they're the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference still. And the Sixers decide to start fining again for missing games, practices, and film sessions. Before we get going, our new shirts that are available for only 3 more days. War, what is it good for? And I'm not a babysitter. They will be on pre-order for just 3 more days. Go to rightsrickysanchez.com and go to the T-shirt tab to get them. Without any further ado, Amos and the chef.
Larry, sweetie, the man is here. Say the name. I say the name. I say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. 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 I say the name. I say the name, mama. Say the name.
Likes Tricky Sanchez forever.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy who is flying high off his extra hour of sleep, Mr. Daylight Saving himself. That is Mike Levin. I can't hear Mike. Mike is muted.
I was muted.
There you go.
I love saving that daylight. I'm such a fan of it. I'm such a fan of understanding why it exists still.
Yeah.
As a farmer in 1887, I depend on it. Every year, twice a year. Let's switch those clocks. Let's do it.
As I've gotten older, when I was younger, I didn't notice a difference in my body. Now I notice it every time. And I'm a fan of, I don't know what the normal one is, but whatever this one is, my body agrees with more. Maybe because I get up earlier, but whatever this one is, I don't know if this is the fake one or the real one, whatever this one is. Before we get going, CJ sent me a tweet right before the pod from Callie Rivers, is that her name? Which is Seth's wife / Doc's daughter. CJ, would you like to put that tweet up on the screen? Can you do that? Look at him hustling. I mean, as if I wasn't going to ask him to do it. Anyway, the tweet from Callie Curry, unbelievable, CJ. What a failure on your part. The tweet from Callie Curry says, I need another good basketball pod to listen to. not an overly entertaining pod with terrible takes, but like a good rational pod.
Well, we're definitely not
Yeah.
either of those.
What would you rather be? A good rational pod or a overly entertaining with terrible takes? Who wants to be entertained?
I think I at least, whether it's a intent or whatever, I think I try to be a good rational pod.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the vibe I'm going for.
And
I think occasionally my misery is entertaining,
mm-hmm.
but it doesn't stem from a place of trying to be entertaining. As you know, as everyone knows, when I'm, we're talking about, the Sixers third stringers in a preseason game. No one's trying to be entertained here. I'm trying to be overly rational.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I would say if you are making a podcast, isn't the goal to entertain people? Isn't that why they listen? Isn't that like the whole thing? I don't understand.
Could be anything.
All right, here we go. So Sixers have won 6 in a row. They are still number 1 in offensive rating in the NBA by a good bit at this point. They are number 4 in net rating. Mike, I ask you, as every time I've tweeted about their number 1 offensive rating or their net rating, all I hear back is it's only been X number of games and they've played this schedule and so on and so forth. At what point is this not a fluke anymore? And is this like that they're good? Because it seems to me they've beaten some good teams now. That was a test last night, especially in the fourth quarter. I think they might be good. I mean, how many more games do we need?
I might need until the second round of the playoffs.
That's not.
I think is the honest answer. Like I can get sucked into fucking anything. Like I really could. I can get hoodwinked into thinking this team is good and thinking this is it. They are certainly deeper than any Sixers team in a long time. Not one I can recall. To be able to withstand not only losing Ben, obviously, but Tobias and now Danny and then Matisse and Isaiah Joe. Like the fact that they can play a good 8-man rotation. We'll talk about B-Ball Paul.
We will. We'll talk about B-Ball Paul.
Is a testament to the level of depth that this team now has, and didn't have in past years when you're depending on guys that couldn't either dribble or shoot or play enough defense to hang on the court. And so this team does, and they have beaten some good teams. I think Chicago's a good team. To beat them twice shorthanded, home and home, is really impressive. Portland without anybody there is a good win.
Rational take, Mike.
Good. They've had some all rational takes. They've had some good wins, but I don't know how to not in the back of my mind or even in the front of my mind think this is a Lucy in the football thing until we get to the playoffs.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't think team as constructed this way without that perimeter guy or whatever is a threat to make the finals or anything. But I do think that it is meaningful where after 10 games, you're 8-2. It doesn't seem fluky. The shooting is hot, but like they have as you've mentioned in other pods, they have a bunch of good shooters. When you have a bunch of good shooters, some of them are going to be hot sometimes, right? And like Danny Green, who is a good shooter, was like cold at the beginning of the year. Seth has been hot. I haven't looked at Furkan's season stats, so I don't know if overall his numbers indicate that he's hot. But I mean,
7 of 9 last night will definitely put those numbers up.
Yeah, for sure. All right,
I don't. I think it is interesting to think about. Like when is something real? Like I'm sure Milwaukee fans last season, after failing in the playoffs a number of times, as they were having a good but not excellent regular season, were doing the what are we doing? Is this real? It's hard to prove until it's into the playoffs and stuff. And while I agree with you that they're not a threat to, on paper make the finals with this team if nothing happens, I'm sure Hawks fans would have said that they weren't a threat to make the conference finals until it happened. Like things don't happen until they happen. And if they're playing well,
you've already talked yourself into it. It took 2 minutes.
I said it. I said I could. I said I could do anything. But the fact that these are guys that clearly really enjoy playing with each other. The Doc Rivers video of his 1,000th win in the locker room with Joel looking genuinely happier than I've ever seen him ever doing anything, is different. So I don't know. I don't fucking know. It's exciting when they win. I'm after being such a big picture guy for the whole run of this podcast and before that. We've failed in the playoffs so many times. There's been so much drama. There's been so much bullshit. Now it's just like they have a bunch of players on the team that I like rooting for, that seem to have a good time playing with each other. It's still Joel. It's a lot of young guys. They've done great work on the margins. They've drafted well, homegrown guys, and they're winning, and it's fun. And I'm just going to enjoy that and try to, know that disaster and heartbreak awaits in the distance, but that's life, and we're having a good time now, and that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, my point would be for this as to why I'm enjoying this is the fact that I do not think that they are a title contender as currently constructed, and they are doing it the way that they're doing it somehow makes it more enjoyable to me, because I'm not watching for anything that I'm like, everything is a delight. Every success from, Shake Milton or Tyrese Maxey or Furkan Korkmaz to this, or B-Ball Paul is a delight. So before we get into the game, the Apple Podcast 5-star review, we are at 2,946 5-star ratings. When we get to 3,000, I read all of them. This comes from Goodbye X Apathy, a Sixers podcast with the most obscure Sixers references for the best Sixers fans. I mostly came to leave a 5-star review to reach their goal of 3,000 to force Spike to read them on a future pod. I'm a relatively new Ricky listener, but my husband is a diehard Ricky fan from the early process years. The theme song caught my attention one morning when he was listening, and I've been hooked ever since. I mostly listen for the detailed Sixers analysis and to learn about third-string bench players I've never heard of before listening.
Wow.
Thanks.
This review was left during the podcast 5 minutes ago.
Yep. Thanks to the Ricky pod, I have obscure Sixer statistics that I don't know how to use in my everyday life, but somehow find a way to bring up at parties. I also listen for the jigsaws and other non-basketball nonsense. I'm happy now that I can say I'm down with TTP. All right. So the big thing last night is the starting of Shake and B-Ball Paul at the 4. I mean, B-Ball Paul at the 4 was the thing that you notice when B-Ball Paul is on the floor, especially with a lineup that we've mentioned before is kind of slow, is his activity.
Yeah.
Rebounding and defensively, even though he fucks up sometimes because he's kind of like a little all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
He does have like that early, there was an offensive rebound early where I think he got fouled right afterwards. And then there was the putback in the first quarter as well, that Tobias, better player, overall player, all those kinds of things. But there's nobody else on the Sixers who would have done that, and he provides like this chaos that I think helped them.
For sure. I mean, there's something to be said for being long and mobile and having a really strong motor. And he just goes. And it's unconventional and it's delightfully strange. And sometimes he is dribbling too much for some reason, where it would have worked in the G League as a starter against a good team doesn't work as well. DeMar like slapping the ball away from whatever, but he goes and he plays hard and he's not a bad defensive player. Obviously he gets a ton of blocks and steals just from being there and being long. But he also like positions his body relatively well. Like he bit on a bunch of DeRozan pump fakes, but who hasn't? He was good. Like he was pretty good. Like he needs to become especially if he's playing the 4, which, he's sort of on the, and I hesitate to even bring this name up because it's going to be bad news, but on the Jonah Bolden track of like, could have been a backup 5, but like didn't trust him to protect the rim. Honestly, Rashawn was like that too for a while. Where they're like, okay, let's play him with the 4 because his being on the court is valuable as a rotation piece, but can't quite protect the rim and anchor a defense just yet, at least to the coaching staff's eyes. So it'd be nice to like put him on the floor as just like an energy guy, as a length guy, and let him do some stuff. But if he's going to be that guy as a 4, then he really needs to be able to shoot. Like he really needs to have some jump shot. And he shot like 40% or something in the G League. The jumper looks still weird. It's better than when he got drafted, but it's still weird. So if he's gonna profile as like an energy 4 going forward in spot minutes, I think fine, become a better shooter. I still like the idea of him being a 5 because of his ability to protect the rim and roll and not be a great shooter. I think there was a couple.
But if he can shoot, I mean that 5 thing becomes even more important and helpful.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, he's just a nice player to have on the court. Like he wasn't perfect last night. There's good things. Like with him and Drummond on the court together, it's a little weird because there was one time when Paul was open in the corner and Drummond like went to kick to him, but B-ball was already rolling to the basket because that's what he does best as just like an offensive rebounder guy. And so it's a little bit uncomfortable and there's going to be mistakes, but it's nice. It's nice that he's getting minutes. These are the kind of things, obviously injuries, and in another like COVID affected season, there's going to be these kinds of things where unexpected guys have to step up. It happened last year as well. It's nice to see him getting minutes and hopefully earning Doc's. I don't know about he's earning his trust now. I think he's not going to him still that much, but like every little offensive rebounds, it's not a thing other guys, like you said, it's not a thing other guys on the team do. They are not a fast, dynamic team outside of Maxey. And Embiid looked great last night and looked, I think, the most spry he's looked and had some bounce and protected the rim really nicely and still affects so many shots. But as far as just like an energy guy, Matisse does it on one level, but that doesn't really carry over to the kinds of things B-ball Paul does. And it's nice to have him out there. And it will be nice if something happens in the playoffs or matchup wise or injury wise that he can fill in because he affects the game in a positive way.
You did the thing that you called him B-ball as his first name. Every once in a while, an announcer will refer to him as Reed, and I don't know who they're talking about because I forget that his last name isn't Paul.
Yes,
I think his name is.
His first name is B-ball.
His last name
except basketball. B-ball is a nickname for basketball,
right?
And his last name is his first name.
So at DraftKings, the Sixers a week ago were plus 2,200 to win the title. They are now plus 1,800. So the hot start has changed their odds, and actually conference, I haven't looked at it. They're up to plus 750, which I think they have been floating around. So hasn't changed the conference odds all that much, even with the Nets not looking great and the Bucks struggling, but the title odds have gotten shorter. So.
Bucks losing a big lead to the Knicks.
Yeah. Yes. I fell asleep during that game, and I woke up to a text message from the guy I work with, Brandon Tierney at CBS Sports Radio, about the win, and I was stunned that the Knicks had won that game. The Bucks were up like 20 points in the first quarter, the first half.
Still missing a lot of guys. Milwaukee,
NBA is DraftKings Sportsbook is an authorized sports betting partner of the NBA. Right now, if you are a new customer, bet $5 on any NBA team to win their game. If they do, you win $200 in free bets. Also, same game parlays. Do same game parlays with the NFL as well. It's fun. Same game parlays. DraftKings, safe, secure, reliable. They put our stupid bets up there as well, which I love them. So thank you to DraftKings Sportsbook. Deposit, money goes right in. Withdraw, money comes right out. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code RTRS. Bet $5 on any NBA team to win their game and win $200 in free bets. If they win, you win with promo code RTRS at DraftKings Sportsbook, an authorized sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 or older. New Jersey, Indiana, or PA only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. Limit 1 per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. I think we always put Embiid as like one of the last things that we mention unless there's a problem. I feel like we should mention him at the top because he was so good. And defensively, especially in that first quarter when he was struggling sort of offensively, he not looking the way he would look later in the game, which was confident and in rhythm. He made up for it defensively, which was like a really good sign, and had a couple of blocks and looked particularly bouncy, as you said, in the first quarter, and can really change the game. Just shows how good he is on defense, you know?
Yeah, he's incredible. Defensively, just like impacted the game, really affected shots, and guys were coming in. There were a couple blocks he didn't get, but clearly like impacted how they were released and where they were released and all. Vucevic, man, I don't know what's going on with him. He looks bad, like really, really
terrible.
Bad.
Terrible.
I feel bad for him. Like I'm watching him. I'm like, I hope this shot goes in just because he deserves it. Like he's a good player and he's playing like shit. But he'll get there. Embiid just looked like he was playing more downhill. You talk about that more like as usually like a running back, but it felt like he was downhill, but also on balance while being aggressive, where he wasn't just like throwing his body into someone and not having like his legs under him. It felt like he was decisive and knew what he wanted, especially after he had those early turnovers. And the shot looks really good. Especially for three, he was 4 or 5. He dribbled into a couple like wing threes. Looked really confident. The last one was obviously awesome. Where he was kind of double teamed. He was like, I'm just putting this up. He had earlier in the game, it might have been his first or second, when he was still feeling good. Shake was dribbling the ball on the left side, and Embiid was like calling for it as he was the trailer. And it just felt like he had a really good handle on the shot. And he's obviously talked about the ball being different, which is another kind of weird Embiid excuse, which he does. I mean, it's right. If the ball is different, that'll affect things. But we've talked about Embiid kind of like doing the injury excuse. This is not another. I think he just knows how good he is, and he's like, if I'm not good, then something is wrong. Like something has happened, and I'm reaching for excuses as to why that is. And he's right, but it also is like, just figure it out. And he did, and the shot looked really good. Still, sometimes he'll dribble off his leg. He almost punched Lonzo in the face. That was pretty funny. I liked watching him like explain to everyone individually what happened. It felt like the most like normal thing. Like the NBA, some of these guys, when you're on the court, like this idea of like what a huddle is like, and this idea of what like they're talking about is like is always like kind of far away and a little hard to be like to know what it even is, to assume what is happening there. That's like, it's just like my pickup game or whatever. It just feels like they're just obviously on such a different playing field. But when they were just standing around waiting for this very long replay review to see if it was intentional or not, and Embiid was just talking to other players and being like, hey, I was like this and I didn't see him and I didn't even know. And he was like, you okay? Like, it was just like the most average guy thing I've ever seen in my life on an NBA court. And that was nice. But he still had a bunch of really lazy passes, like really, really lazy passes that are just dying to get picked off. Reading into like, I don't know if it's a Drummond thing, but he's trying like behind the back passes. He tried like a cross court behind the back pass that went off of Vucevic's. He was in the post and he went to make a behind the back pass off the bounce to, I think, Korkmaz in the opposite wing. And it hit off Vucevic's leg and went out of bounds, luckily. But then a couple other times he had picked off. Like he's just there's a couple too many times he had Shake underneath the basket where he like whipped it really quick and it hit off of Vucevic. Like there's just too many times when he's doing that. And I just need the passes to be more on target, whether that's like a regular kick out to Seth, like it should be in the shooting pocket, not at his legs, or just like anything. It's still an issue. Like he's obviously improved as a passer. He's obviously improved as a distributor, and without Ben, like that's more of his mindset. But I need him to be more locked in passing, not like, oh, I'm disappointed that I'm not going to shoot this. Like here's the ball, someone.
Yeah, he's just not everybody's great at everything. And he's not like a great passer. He's not particularly accurate. He doesn't see the court. He doesn't make the decision quickly. So when he tries to like do something fancy, it almost hardly ever works. The biggest, obviously the shot looked good and the shot looked good from mid-range. When he's rolling though, I think the biggest difference from him is that everything happens like quickly. Like when he wants to shoot it in that mid-range and he's facing up, there's not like a lot of other nonsense. He just sort of like move, shoot. And he's so good at that shot that when it's rolling, he doesn't dick around too much. And last night was the first night of the year that it seemed like he was in that groove where he looked like he did last year in terms of like the quick decision making offensively. Right?
I agree. In the last few minutes, like obviously this is a Sixers team that has in the past and also this season collapsed in the last 6 minutes of the game and stopped being able to get offense. There's been the run against Brooklyn. There was the run against even Detroit, I think, had a run. Like there's been times over the course of this young season that like that's happened already. And it seemed like my solution to that is giving the ball to Maxey.
Right.
Is allowing him to run pick and rolls. I like when they do the double pick and roll where one of the big pops and one of the big rolls. I think that makes the defense scramble. I think that's a nice look. But as much as these guys have there's a lot of shooters in this team. There's guys that can handle the ball and make decisions. They're just not fast enough. We've talked about that enough. Like Shake, Seth, even Tobias sometimes, Niang, Korkmaz, they're just not fast enough with the ball to get where they want. And when the defense tightens up, when the defense at a 10, I just want the ball in Maxi's hands. Like I want him to be able to like get to the rim, to be able to like draw the defense. Whereas other guys, it seems like are getting swallowed up by it. And maybe that's like the NBA, the basketball equivalent of like playing prevent defense, where they're like a little bit on their heels and allowing it to happen because they have a lead and it's not as much important. And then it starts to like pile up like a snowball. But I thought in this game, it was clear after they started struggling. Like you said, I thought they were getting Joe the ball where he could make quick decisions with the ball. If that was a get him in the middle of the court, kind of late in the shot clock where he could just go up with it. When he's just at the wing, kind of like looking and like has the ball high in the air and is kind of just like looking around, and then the defense is closing in on him. It just doesn't work that much. And if he's low, if he's really low, then he can get that up fast enough. But I'd rather him in the middle of the court making quick decisions, making a quick shot, or deciding to drive like 2 dribbles and get fouled, any of that stuff. And I thought they did a pretty good job of it last night, but it's going to keep happening where the defense is going to take advantage of the fact that the Sixers just aren't fast enough unless they start giving Maxey the ball.
And I would say, you've mentioned that he should roll more. And I understand physically that rolling, is a lot. And especially him who, there's a lot depending on him physically. But the more that they put him in, screens in pick and roll with, he doesn't roll, but pick and pop with Maxey. And now he's doing it with Korkmaz. With all of the shooters on the team, I do think once in a while, if he just dove toward the rim, I mean, he never does.
He doesn't.
With Maxey or Korkmaz or Milton or even Curry, who's run some of that, if he would just dive toward the rim 1 out of 5 times, the defense would respect it so much because he's so big and so dangerous. He doesn't have to catch an alley-oop or anything. He just needs to go every once in a while.
I wonder why he doesn't. I mean, sometimes you don't do things because it's just like not naturally in your game. But
yeah,
I wonder if that becomes a point of emphasis from the coaching staff. Like, it'd be nice to see him just get a lob here and there. It'd be nice to see him just get a roll, and then even do the, like, I don't know, like Draymond, Larry Nance type thing where he's on a short roll. If they start like really respecting Maxey or even Seth's shot, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, he can either go up with it over like a tagging weak side guy, or it's a swing to like Niang or Danny in the corner or whatever. It'd be nice to see it. Like, they just don't do it. It's just so much of this offense is like dribble, handoff, dribble, handoff, dribble, handoff. And they have the shooters to like get to it, and they have some ball handling. But at the ends of games, when you're like fighting to do a dribble handoff 24 feet from the rim as the defense is like right on top of it, there's that's just going to keep creating turnovers and everything. So I would like there to be some more of that. I like the double big pick and roll where one of them is popping, one of them is rolling, and it'd be nice for it to be Embiid that time. Even sometimes I would like to say it. I'd love to even just have someone answer it. Like, has Embiid, even just one of the beats, asking Embiid like, hey, why don't you do this more? Like, have you thought about doing this more? I don't know.
Well, and maybe it's just like historically the primary ball handler isn't somebody who can really run a pick and roll. And this year, since there is really no primary ball handler, right?
That's true.
Everyone's getting a chance to do it, and there's several players who can accomplish it.
Yeah.
I would try.
And you see that with Drummond. Drummond didn't play well last night, but you see that with like when it's Korkmaz and Drummond rolling pick and roll, he's rolling to the rim. When it's Maxey doing it, Shake doing it, like the big has to make that decision. Speaking of that, I think Maxey has been way, way better than last year at diagnosing the right play out of a pick and roll.
Yep.
Like, significantly so. He ran some point guard at Kentucky, but not a ton. Now he's really seeing it in a way that is advanced in a large way. Like, if the weak side tag is soft, then that's a lob to Drummond, and he's making that play. And if it comes in and then Tony Bradley is now expecting the lob, then Maxey can get right to the rim. And it's just seeing that he can make that play off to the weak side. He can make that play of easy stuff. He can do a little, which he did last night, the kind of late in the game, pull up. Okay, they're playing the drive. I'm just going to do a nice little fade and hit like a 12-footer. Those are big shots. And it's just really like a taking what the defense gives you. And he's gotten so much better at that. And that really, really nice scoop finish past Levine, where he finished with his right hand, like too far away to take a layup. And it somehow went in. He's got a knack for it. Like, obviously the floater is very cool, but like when the stuff he can do going at the rim also It's just really impressive. Even though he's not an above the rim player, he can still find a way to finish. He's been great.
Furkan Korkmaz is like, and the shooting is what gets all of the attention, and it should. Quick, high release, making shots, total confidence. But he is a legitimately good playmaker with the ball in his hands on the perimeter, and he's probably the best one on the team. Like, just in terms of seeing the court, ability to pass, is a good ball handler for somebody who is slow and tall, is a comfortable ball handler. I'm just like, last night was wonderful, but I'm not shocked by it at all.
No.
And wait a minute. Did you see his Instagram post?
I saw a tweet that he said where he just said speechless.
Yeah.
With a picture of himself. Which is really funny.
I saw it this morning. It was so good.
Which is really funny. I'm posting a picture of yourself. I think I've railed against this before, but the idea of like when you do something really, really good and then you just go like, oh, I'm so humbled by this. And it's like, that's the opposite. It's the opposite of what it is. You're not humbled by it. You're humbled when you fuck up. When you go like over 40, then you're humbled because like, oh, I need to keep putting work in. But when you're speechless at yourself by doing really good, I love and respect it.
It's so good.
He's incredible.
Speechless.
He's incredible.
It's
I
so
mean,
good.
The shooting, obviously with the wrist coming back off him after missing a game and shooting that well, 7 of 9 from 3, 9 of 13 from the field generally, plus 16, led the team with Embiid. It's so fun to watch him know he's going to shoot it. And there's sometimes when he's just like, I'm going up with this. And it's easily it gets the most laughs watching this team is when Korkmaz just decides to shoot it. In whatever he's obviously very good. He's obviously getting significantly underpaid. Admit it, Spike. About $7 million underpaid.
Our debate was not about what he deserves. Our debate was about what he would get. Yeah,
sure. We're past it, and I am claiming residual victory just because other GMs are stupid. Doesn't mean I'm not right. He's great. The pump fake on Derek Jones Jr., who's obviously an incredible athlete. He recovered so quickly to contest that shot still. And for Korkmaz to be like uncomfortable as he went up with it, but still hit that shot. He shoots it high, he shoots it quick. I just love him. And I love how much the team loves him. I love how much Embiid loves him. He's really improved on defense. Just consistently, like, look, DeMar's very good, but Korkmaz is playing fine defense on him. Like, he's really like fine. He's absolutely not a weakness.
Fine defense all year.
Yeah.
All year he's been
playing. He's not a weak spot anymore. There's like, I think if I was another team and I was going to, who do I attack? I'm attacking Seth. And I think people look at Korkmaz because he's got a stupid name and he occasionally looks goofy, but like you come up empty a lot. Like if you're going to plan your offense around like
he doesn't have a stupid name. He doesn't have a stupid name.
Furkan Korkmaz, look, it's a silly name to say. There's a lot of syllables, a bunch of K's.
For Americans.
Sure, I love him. He's my favorite. He's one of my favorite people in the world. Like I love him. But it's great.
He loved Horford and Horford loved Korkmaz. And I would love to if I could ask Al Horford one question, it would be about Furk. Furk. Okay, let me ask you this. There's 10 seconds left in the game. You can give the ball to one player on the Sixers on the perimeter. It's Seth Curry, Tobias Harris, or Furkan Korkmaz to create the final shot. Who would you give the ball to?
I mean, I give it to Maxey, but
really over Korkmaz?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of a game, like you've seen him be rattled by ball pressure before.
Yeah,
and that kind of thing. But look, I love him. He's doing great. He's closing games. Played 33 minutes last night in a game that they were trying to win. Like they shouldn't have won these games, and they've won a lot of them because of how good Korkmaz has been. I think Niang also deserves a lot of credit for a couple of those wins. Like it has been, and that's testament to Doc. Like it is a testament to Doc that these guys are playing well with each other. That the role players are empowered enough to do, and looking confident enough to do a bunch of stuff. And you see, like, did you watch the video of Doc getting water poured on him in the locker room?
I did not.
It's great. You should watch it. It's easily the happiest I've seen this team in a long time. And Joel like almost concussed him. Like he really got a lot of his face in like dumping the kind of like water bucket you put like old yearbooks and stuff in your garage. Like it's a really like a huge like bin of water that he just like galoshed in his face. And I think like, look, he makes some baffling decisions. Doc does. He doesn't take accountability himself enough times. But he clearly, the past 2 seasons, aside from Ben Simmons and the Hawk series, people have loved playing for him. There's been only positive like reports of and just visually seeing how guys want to play for him. And that's all of this being able to like backs against the wall battle through this stuff. And you saw it with like the somewhat mediocre Clippers team that won a couple games from the Warriors when it was like Pat Beverly and Lou Williams and stuff. It's cool. It's I mean, and good for him. And it's part of the reason the vibes are so inexplicably good on this team is because of Doc.
It's been coaching for 100 years. Mike, it is time for the soft shit award. As usual, I will give you a minute to think about it, as you're not Mr. Prepare guy. So the By Nature Pet Food Soft Shit Award will be coming in a moment after I'm done talking about By Nature Pet Foods, which, you know, you go to the pet food store. If you start searching on the internet for which pet food is the best, you will be reading for 100 years. It is so frustrating, so maddening. And then you look at it and you're like, this all looks the same, little brown pebbles. But you know what? I've tasted By Nature pet food right here on the podcast. And I can tell you it tastes good. Even as a vegan, I had the salmon kind. It is the best pet food that you can give your dog or cat. It is the best for 2 specific reasons that make a lot of sense. It is better ingredients and it is cooked better. That's all you need to know. Better ingredients, meaning premium proteins. The protein is always the first thing listed. You know, super probiotics like apple cider vinegar and spinach and blueberries. And then it is cooked better, is slow cooked, so it stays more nutrient rich. So your pet, who is small, most pets are small, they metabolize food quicker, so they need it to be more nutrient rich, so they stay healthy. And the reason the Soft Shit Award is named after By Nature is because if you start giving your pet By Nature pet food, no more soft shit. Nobody likes walking their dog with the bag and they poop and you see it's all in the grass and you're never going to get it with the bag. The great thing is just to grab and go, tie it up and go. You'll do that with By Nature pet food. The family-owned, family-operated company has never had a recall in its 40 years of business, never had a recall. Get 20% off your first order with By Nature pet food by using promo code 20RTRS at Amazon or Chewy. That is 20RTRS. Buy some By Nature pet food, put it in the cart, use code 20RTRS. You get 20% off your first order. By Nature pet food. By Nature, By Nature. Mike, it's time for the Soft Shit Award. Who gets it?
I'm going to give it to the Boston Celtics. It is, no matter how good the Sixers are doing, I'm never going to be the bigger person and look past other teams that we hate struggling.
Failures,
and like a couple games into a season with a new coach and a bunch of new players, they brought out the old hits with Horford. They're like, the vibes couldn't be better in Boston. And then the season starts and Marcus Smart calls a players only meeting. He says they're not passing. Tatum and Brown don't pass. Everything's ugly. They have lost some bad games. They're like 4-6. And I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying myself. I thought that the Celtics were going to be good this year. I still think they might, but I'm not above giving the Soft Shit Award to a second week of the season players only meeting and saying that your teammates don't pass. I think it's great.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. The last player that I wanted to mention in particular, I thought Shake Milton was excellent against the Bulls. I think he has been more under control and has been the most in the Bulls game, probably the best defense he's played and the most under control he's been offensively, and not a point guard, but operating the offense in a not myopic way, not just looking at the basket, and has been looking at everyone else, has thrown some nice passes off the pick and roll. I thought it was Shake Milton's best game of the year.
I agree. I mean, the Sixers haven't lost since Shake has come back from his ankle injury, and he's looked just great. He finishes really well in that middle distance, whether it's a shot or a little like teardrop. He had that little weird contested lefty floater, like as he was absorbing contact. That was a very impressive shot to go in. He's got nice touch. You notice that Shake and Korkmaz both like at a dead ball play or when it's like just a timeout or whatever, they both try to shoot like lefty threes. Did you ever notice that? They
No.
both just like when the game the
Oh,
game
when
is
it's over.
no, it's not being played. Like they blow the whistle and then someone just like takes a three, and they both shoot it with their left hand occasionally. And I think it's like it's just fun to watch, and it's fun to see Shake pull that out in it was like a 6 foot lane. It was an impressive shot. Yeah, I think the defense has been excellent. He played, without Matisse, he was tasked with covering Levine. And I thought he did a really good job. Like he bit on a pump fake and he slapped his hand after playing really good defense. Like there's things that are going to happen, but he's long. He's like determined to play good defense. So much of it is just like, if you have the body to play good defense and then you just like want to, then you can do it. And he's doing it. And he's got a really good sense of like spacing on defense and where to contest and when to just get a hand up. I thought he's been great. And I think the other thing, you mentioned he's not a point guard. Obviously we've talked about this before. He's fine as a secondary ball handler. He's fine running the second unit occasionally. He just keeps his dribble. And as long as he keeps his dribble, he can keep creating. He can keep finding guys. And he had 6 assists last night, moved the ball well, didn't hit any outside shots, but can occasionally like get you a bucket in a like stop the bleeding type of way. He's good, man. He gets to the line a little bit. He's probably him and Maxey comes and goes as far as getting to the line, but like he draws contact probably more than anybody else on the team outside of Embiid. He's just been good. And after a disappointing season last year, which I kind of think was partly due to the expectations of like what his role is and him being like ill-equipped for it. I think Doc saw him put like 39 points on him when he was with the Clippers. And then Doc was like, you're going to be like Mr. Offense guy. And you're going to like, every time down, you're going to be looking for your shot and you're going to be like microwave scorer, you're Lou Williams. And he's just not that guy. Like, he's just not that guy. He's not fast enough to get to a shot. He's not elite enough as an outside shooter off the dribble to get to the spots. He's an in-between guy and he can get to the rim and pick his spots. He can hit shots off the catch. He can move the ball. He's just like a very, very helpful player, especially as he's improved his defense. He's a really helpful player. And I'm really happy for him. Like the amount of guys that this team has gotten late in the first round into the second round is really, really impressive. Obviously, Shake was not a Darryl acquisition, but like over the course of the last few years, they've really hit on a bunch of picks and a bunch of fringe guys that they are benefiting from because they've had signings and George Hill not succeeding, those kinds of things. It's just like they've needed these guys and they've delivered.
I remember when Colangelo took Korkmaz and TLC, specifically talking about the fact that we thought he maybe took those players to satiate us. And
honestly, still absolutely might have. Korkmaz is great. I liked Shake more than Landry Shamet, and that looked weird for a while, but I think Shake is the better player. I'd rather have Shake over Shamet. I'd rather have Korkmaz over Shamet. I'm happy with who we got. It's a nice team, and it'd be really, really just very nice if they could trade Ben Simmons for the guy, because they have the guys around that guy. They have everybody else is in place, and it's a little bit weird. It's a little bit trying to draw an inside straight, and you feel a little uncomfortable doing it. But like everything is set. Everything else, like even in the world where like Drummond looks good as a backup center, didn't play great last night, but has his games. And I think B-Ball Paul could step in here and there. And I think if they do a Tobias Matisse, George Niang, small ball occasionally, they can make it happen. There's just like a lot of options with this team. And if they just need to make the biggest trade of the decade to make it happen. And we'll see. Really, I have two more things about the game. If you don't mind.
Yeah.
Seth wasn't great this time. I think they were just determined to not let him beat them. But his confidence is so high right now. He didn't hit 3 last night, but he really is starting to take and make very contested shots with very little breathing room. And that's off the dribble. That's with guys in his face. He had that huge shot at the end of the game a couple of games ago. But like just some really, really tough looks that he's just gotten really comfortable doing. He's an incredible player. And I think he's gotten empowered and to take not just wide open shots. Not just wide open and like step into it shots, but like, hey, you're one of the best shooters in the league. Shoot often from wherever. And it's nice. And Niang had a bad game, but still managed to have a like bunch of good big shot at the end, got to the line a couple times. I thought his defense was fine in a tough matchup. He forced forced Levine into a step back three after he wasn't able to get by him. Just nice. The only thing the team is struggling with is giving up offensive rebounds, and I think B-ball Paul has a possibility to get around that. I think when Tobias gets back, that'll come down a little bit. Drummond needs to be a better rebounder. And it was interesting to see when the Bulls were scoring, they weren't really scoring in the half court. They were scoring in transition, and in transition and off of putbacks. And I think that a lot of the transition stuff is just Lonzo being a really good, like, look ahead, hit ahead type guy. And the Sixers don't have that kind of quick passing decision making guy to like establish that, and it'd be nice to have. I wonder if Maxey ends up becoming that, although it's kind of like you're born with it or not. But those are my concerns: the giving up the offensive rebounds and transition defense.
To me, the thing last night was when they fell behind in the fourth with like 3 minutes left on that Zach LaVine three.
Mm-hmm.
I would have sworn the game was fucking over, especially when the next shot was a Seth Curry mid-ranger that I was sure was going in. And when LaVine hit that three and then Seth Curry missed that shot, I was like, nice effort. This game's fucking done. The fact that they won that game is bonkers to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's legitimately bonkers to me. It's not something I feel like that we've seen. And it was great. Speaking of which, you mentioned the trade. We'll make this update brought to you by our friends at Kinetic Skateboarding, who will give you free tunes for the life of your new snowboard. If you buy a new snowboard from them, it's like $50 each time. The whole life of your snowboard. KineticSkateboarding.com. Fucking love them. I got to be honest, Mike. So the only update this week is they started like finding him again. I don't have anything to say. I don't want to talk about it. Do you have anything to say? I don't really have anything to say on this thing right now, other than I just want it to be over.
It's very bizarre. It's very impressive that the team can continue to like feel good and look good and provide good feelings. As this is just all so messy and bad. I thought that Kyle Neubeck had a good explanation of it and a good measured take of what we were trying to say last week. I don't know if we accomplished it, but I'll just read that from Kyle Neubeck at the Philly Voice. NBA teams don't have a right to get minute-to-minute reports from a player's therapy session or meeting with a mental health professional, and don't even need to be made aware of said meetings are taking place if it has no impact on their ability to play. If a player is seeking counsel for something personal, like a death in the family, teams don't have the right to demand basically anything from the player. In this case, though, Simmons has specifically presented mental readiness as the barrier between him and his return, and has since failed to share anything about what he's doing to work on the problem, how any work he has done would be implemented while putting him back on the floor, and so on. It is an important point of distinction. The Sixers wanting to be Big Brother overseeing sensitive mental health meetings would be a very different story, which I agree with. I agree with entirely. If he's just stiff arming them and saying like "fuck off," then it will give more credence to the idea that he's just using this as a reason to keep getting paid. And now the Sixers are like, well, you got to prove it. And it's messy and it's stupid. And I wish a trade made itself available. It hasn't so far. I don't know what the 8-2 start means for his value or his leverage or whatever the fuck. I feel like you could do it every game. Is Tyrese Maxey making this pass? Does that give him leverage going forward? Like you could do it every single time. But it's just messy and it sucks. And I just wanted to move on.
The Sixers are saying either one of two things are going on here. A, you are purposely not sharing any update at all and keeping us in the dark. Or B, this is not actually what you say it is. And it seems fair. I just don't think they would be as careless with this as many people are accusing them of being. You know, this is obviously a contentious thing. A player who said he was willing to not get paid for the entire year just to not play for the team. So, you know, a good question though we got from, I just thought this was interesting, from Robert Schwartz on Twitter. Settle a debate. Does he watch the Sixers games on TV?
I would say no.
Do you think he checks to see what happened? Like he has to check to see what happened, right? Because he probably secretly wants them not I don't even know.
I have no idea. I
Yeah.
have no idea.
It
I
was
have
such
no
a
clue.
good question, I thought.
He has obviously I've worked with him. We don't have to do this again. I don't know him very well, but he has just not made himself and his personality ever like readily available to
Right.
people. And that's fine. That's allowed. He's allowed to do that. He's a human being. He can do what he wants. But then people are going to make their own inferences on the kind of person he is, how he's feeling, whatever, what kind of whatever. And it's hard to imagine him just like sitting down to watch like Kate and Ala like do like a broadcast. It just seems very strange. It's hard to imagine that. It's hard to imagine him just like watching it and paying attention and being invested. Maybe, but also it's weird to be like, you're supposed to be on this team. Like, are you rooting against them? I don't know if it's that malicious. Like, he probably likes maybe not everyone on the team, but he probably likes some guys on the team and wants to see them succeed. I can't imagine him rooting against Korkmaz going 7 of 9 from 3. That sounds ridiculous. He's a human being.
Do you think he cheers for Subers to have like really good pictures on Twitter after the game?
Yeah, and they are good, and they do a good job.
Okay. He does a great job.
Subers still posting pictures, and other guys on the team still liking it.
Yeah,
it's very odd, very strange. But I would lean no. I would lean he's doing other stuff.
Mike, nobody can speak on the goodness of LL Pavorsky Jewelers better than you, specifically on this pod, because you are the only one on this pod who has purchased an engagement ring from LL Pavorsky. Here's my question for you. When you finally sealed the deal and made love to LL, when you finally sealed the deal and bought the ring, what was he wearing?
Oh, I mean, I bought the ring remotely. We looked at it together.
Didn't you pick it up? You picked it up?
He mailed it. No.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
He mailed it to the home of John Gonzalez and Colleen Wolfe, because if it was mailed here, then Alyssa would have seen it.
Yes.
But he was very discreet as always.
Mm-hmm.
And he was wearing a suit, obviously, when we saw him, in late 2019.
Yep.
He's the total package. The total package. And I guess the next thing is that whatever the wedding ring part of the stuff is,
the wedding bands. You got to go back to
that, which I think is stupid. I want also a wedding ring. I want Alyssa to propose to me from an LL ring, with a bunch of diamonds on it, and I feel like I deserve that.
3 months salary. It should cost her 3 months salary easily before taxes. LL Pavorsky Jewelers, the first sponsor of the Ricky, sold Mike his and Alyssa's engagement ring, has sold over 240 rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners' engagement rings. And I forgot, he wanted Ricky t-shirts, and I was going to give them to my friend Alex, who was up here this weekend, so he could drive him down to Lee, and I forgot, so I'm going to fucking send him the t-shirts now so he can give them to jewelry buyers. What a fucking lunatic. What a lunatic. 707 Walnut, though he can do it remotely, as Mike showed you. 215-627-2252. The in-store stuff is appointment only. Lee at llpavorsky.com, on Twitter at llpavorsky. And he charmingly, every time something good happens with the Sixers, takes a screenshot of Twitter and posts that, as he did with Doc Rivers last night. It was amazing. So LL Pavorsky Jewelers.
The Magic Johnson of jewelry.
The YouTube comment of the week comes from Murphy Brown. I'm curious to see whether you think this is true. Are the new free throw rules affecting Embiid the same way they're affecting Harden and Lillard? So Embiid is down about 2 free throw attempts a game, which is about 18% of his free throws. Do you think it's the new rules?
I think a little bit, yeah. I think across the league, they're saying call fewer fouls, call fewer shooting fouls. And Embiid, I think, is occasionally just doing the like throw his hands up and anticipate a foul call, especially in the Detroit game. He did that a bunch, and it didn't look good, where he was just like expecting to get bailed out left and right. And I think in the Chicago game, aside from the turnovers, he decided to be like, I'm just going to do what I want to do, and not play to the refs. It felt like he was playing to score the basketball rather than just like do some of that, Embiid, I don't think is as much of a grifter as Harden and Trae Young, which they're allowed to be. That was the rules of the game. You try to get any advantage you can.
Mhm.
But I don't think Embiid did it to that extent quite so much. Although he was especially on the rip throughs, he was really seeking out those arms. But now I think he's capable of, just as those guys are, capable of scoring in other ways. It's just like tailoring your success to it. But I do think it's affecting him for sure.
I'm only going to take Shane's non-basketball question, which is the jigsaw, because the basketball question was undoing one major decision from the team. And I feel like we've had that question a bunch of times. Shane says, longtime listener of the pod. By the way, writes to RickySanchez@gmail.com. Writes to RickySanchez@gmail.com. Longtime listener of the pod. I listen to a lot of different podcasts from work as I have a long commute each day. You guys are best in class. Perfect mix of basketball humor and an overall good time. In fact, if you want a reasonable basketball podcast, not too entertaining. No, he didn't say that. He gives a jigsaw. I thought it was particularly good. I love listener submitted jigsaws, especially when they're done well. Mike, here you go. 4 times a year, here are the 2 choices. 4 times a year, you will suddenly have the horrible urge to immediately rush to the bathroom to unload an unholy amount of diarrhea from your bowels. Think bathroom scene in Dumb and Dumber. This will always happen in a stressful social situation. Think job interview, meeting girlfriend's parents for the first time, first date, back to school night. It will never happen when you're just at home doing nothing. For instance, I was trick-or-treating with my kids with a good friend. While we were out, I literally felt like I was going to crap my pants. I duck walked to his house and christened his newly remodeled toilet with a disgusting. I can't finish the sentence. Oh my God. Of course, there was no toilet paper. I didn't read all of this. Of course, there was no toilet paper, so I had to shimmy over to the sink to find some and discovered that this is a horrible email. Anyway, that is the first thing. I can't even finish it. That is the first thing. Happens 4 times a year. Or 4 times a year, you will randomly find a used Band-Aid hidden somewhere in your food. You could be biting into a juicy piece of General Tso's chicken or munching on a cheesesteak, and you'll discover you're chewing on a used Band-Aid and have to peel it from your mouth. Which one?
Look, longtime listeners of this podcast will know
All
that
right.
the first option is basically the way I live. That is basically par for the course. 4 times a year sounds nice. We got stomach issues over here. Band-Aid, tough. I wouldn't be so repulsed by it that I would never eat again. But because the first one is generally the way I live, I'll take that and go about my life.
You know, he says, of course there was no toilet paper, so I had to shimmy over to the sink and find some and discovered that I kind of splattered everywhere.
Sure.
So I had to take another 15 minutes cleaning up. All the while, my
15 minutes
friends...
is a long time to clean up. I've never splattered in that. I feel like I've never splattered. I feel like there's never been that's rough.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Jesus.
That seems like someone who isn't used to it. And I'm used to it, so you get better with experience at targeting wherever you got to target.
Mike, this came from Adam, and it points to an issue I was dealing with earlier in the week. I received a message. All right. So on the last pod, we banned a gentleman named Tyler who was on Jeopardy and referenced the lottery parties and did not say the name.
Didn't even say Sixers fans gathered.
Right. So we banned him, and almost to 100% agreement, he is banned. All I'll say is I received a petition on his behalf from a family member of his, a very serious petition. You know, banning is not for people like Tyler. It's for people like your father and Brian Windhorst, yada, yada, yada.
Sure, that makes sense.
We received an email from Adam.
He also did say that he was watching the live stream and stopped watching it because he accepted his banning. Now, by the way, banning doesn't mean you can't listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
In my mind. Banning just means you're not going to be on it. But he's never been on it anyway, so it's not like that's too much of an issue.
Well,
if your dad wants to listen to the podcast, he's welcome to keep listening.
Yeah, we got a tweet from an Aussie Twitter user saying, please tell Tyler he can still listen to the pod.
Good.
That's what I, as this family member was begging for his release from the ban, I just wanted to say, can you think about this for a second? As what are we actually
Sure.
banning him from? Anyway, we get an email from Adam. He says, I'm writing in support of your most recent lifetime ban awarded to the Jeopardy contestant who failed to say the name despite referencing the lottery party he attended with his father. That display of loser energy undoubtedly ended his Jeopardy career. I often hand out lifetime bans in my personal and professional life, usually to various restaurants for messing up food orders. But after giving it some thought, I 100% just support your decision to give this guy a ban. Real fans rep the Sixers and the Ricky proudly. Earlier today, I was at the gym and I saw a guy in a Sixers hat. This was a rarity to see in the wilds of northern Jersey where I live and work. We started chatting about the Sixers, and in less than 2 minutes, this total stranger referred to a Sixers podcast he listened to called The Rights to Ricky Sanchez. We proceeded to immediately discuss the direct correlation between B-Ball Paul's minutes per game and the Sixers' odds of winning a championship. Any casual fan can talk about the Simmons situation, but only real fans can point out the guys at the gym with smokers' arms. Sure. I agree. Tyler stays banned.
I don't know. I'm willing to have leniency on Tyler. He's on national TV. He's excited. He's got other things on his mind. I'm sure you get like such quick bursts to have the banter with the host. And look, did he make a mistake? Absolutely. But I'm a little bit more. I'm open to leniency for sure.
I am not open to leniency, though. I could accept bribes. I don't know. One more.
It's very strange. Look. One other thing. I get other people asking other people if they listen to the podcast when they see Sixers stuff in the wild. I think cool. I think normal. When I see someone, I saw at a coffee shop right by me, this place I moved, there's a Sixers bumper sticker. Mm-hmm. And I was like, it's very curious, obviously. And I was looking, and I went into the coffee shop to see if anyone who it could have been. And I had it like generally pegged of who it was just by like athleisure and vibe. And I didn't say anything. And even if I did, what would I say? Like, I actually do you listen to my podcast? Like, it's a weird thing. It's just not a thing that you can say. It's an uncomfortable thing. So, but I honestly, like, other people doing it, cool, and I appreciate it. I don't know if anyone meets me, I'm not going to ask anyone if they listen to my podcast. But if anyone meets me and you realize that it's me, you have to let me know.
Yeah,
because I'm not going to ask.
No. Final one comes from Jake. Hey guys, question for the pod. I saw a few tweets of people saying that George Niang is the new Dario. Other than seeming like a cool guy and having some big moments in the past few games, I didn't really see it. That was until I thought I saw him clumpy flump. Can you please confirm if there was, in fact, any clumpy flumping?
Absolutely. I think it's different when it's Dario because he just posted up more in that at that time of his career, and Niang doesn't really do it. But there is certainly a similar level of power forward, heavy footed, like slow in like a sort of like almost like what's the Fee 5 Fum giant? Is that like Jack and the Beanstalk?
Green Giant? Is it
I think it's Jack and the Beanstalk.
Is there a Green Giant?
And there's definitely like you could see as they're moving through space, like some, maybe whatever tiny villagers below and some sort of fairy tale getting out of the way. So I hear it, but I think because of it's like an evolution of it. But I think there's definitely a lot of similarities down to like, Dario got fired up like occasionally. And Niang seems to be more permanently fired up, but I think the vibe around the team is still similar. I think Dario, like Korkmaz, is because of just they're both from Eastern Europe and have like sort of like a adorably confused demeanor all the time. And Niang, I think, is he was born in Massachusetts, so he has more just general Americanness to him. But I like how pumped up he is, and I like him coming off the bench and being fired up and firing up his teammates.
He honestly
really like him a lot.
He seems fucking thrilled he doesn't live in Utah anymore.
Yeah,
no offense to Utah.
And it seems like, and really just seems like he was tired of that offense because like there's no reason why he didn't get paid more money, and there's no reason why he wouldn't stay. Like they replaced him with Eric Pascal, who's good and like could be better and is probably more athletic and has more elevation stuff to him. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know why Niang wasn't allowed to do more in Utah because he is capable of doing it. And I think he seems to really like the free flowing nature of Doc's offense, which he said he wanted. That's the reason he came to play for him.
Well, we got a back-to-back this week. Monday night the Knicks, and then Tuesday is the Bucks. Is that the way I remember it? I know Tuesday's the Bucks. I think
Both
Monday's
at home, and then a long road trip. I will say I'm happy that with all these guys getting hurt and going down with COVID, that finally Aaron Henry and Jaden Springer were recalled, because you need bodies, and they don't really have them right now. Knicks on Monday, Bucks on Tuesday, Raptors on Thursday.
So we will talk to you Tuesday night after the Bucks game. Hopefully that's after 8 in a row. That would be nice.
Well.
All right. We will talk to you later this week. Are you done with TTP?
Yeah. Like face.